Isn't it great that we can defend the Bible? Have you noticed that nobody questions the authority of these kind of stories in the Bible? What's interesting, I think in fact that he keeps on going back to the same thing. Muhammad didn't speak these languages. No one claims he did. Muhammad had very little to do with the Quran, what we're finding out. This manuscript from Sana is dated to 705. That's the 8th century.
I say 795.
Folks, even the scholars know that it is not complete. What's more, parts of it are dated to 705. Good bit of it is dated to the late 8th century. So even it is not complete. Yet this is proving to be the oldest manuscript that we can get our hands on. Muhammad died in 632. If this is the latest 705, what does that suggest? It suggests a good bit of the Quran was not completed even as late as 705.
No, it suggests Muhammad lived about 200 years.
It's further away from Medina. I would venture to say that much of the Quran was finally compiled in the mid-8th century, 100 years later. Has nothing to do with Muhammad. But of course, Muslims are not going to listen to that. And that's going to take a much greater debate, much more time to prove our point. Dr. John Wansbrough has done a great book, Quranic Studies, Sectarian Milieu. Look at his writings. He was head of department here at School of Oriental African Studies. He has made that point very clear that much of the Quran we have today, including these stories, could have only been amalgamated into a book in the mid to late 8th century, 100 years after Muhammad, which seemed to suggest that Muhammad had little to nothing to do about it. The Muslims will claim they have many manuscripts from the 7th, as he's saying, even the 6th century. They cannot prove it forensically. They cannot use any accelerated mass spectrography to prove their point. Now, what we're doing, folks, we're looking back at these stories, and we're asking a much greater problem. If these stories are borrowed from earlier apocryphal writings, as we now know they are, does that not suggest that much of the Quran is nothing more than borrowing?
Ladies and gentlemen, the man he mentioned, Wansbrough, a scholar from SOAS. Now, all the Quranic scholars unanimously, listen to me carefully, all the modern scholars of Quran unanimously rejected Wansbrough's theory. Why? Why? When Sana manuscripts were discovered in 1970s in the Sana Mosque, they said Wansbrough's theory, down the drain, it's gone. Now these fundamentalist Christians, these liars, they have nothing to hang on. So they are hanging on the theory of Wansbrough. I'll give you another theory. Montgomery Ward and Professor Bell, which we respect. Christian scholars. Montgomery Ward and Professor Bell, they said, the Quran which we carry today in our hand, these are the words I'm quoting, from the book Introduction to the Quran by Montgomery Ward and Richard Bell. They said the Quran which we carry in our hand is essentially Uthmanic. The Quran we have today was accurately transmitted by the companions of Muhammad. This is a Christian writing, ladies and gentlemen. And these people, they reject him. Don't believe me? Go and check it out. Now, the theory of 705 is the earliest manuscript we found. This guy is such a liar. He's such a liar. If you go and look at the manuscripts of Sana manuscripts, and I'll give you the source. The pictures can be found on Islamic-awareness.org. Islamic-awareness.org. This is the website. Look at the pictures and look at the scholarly opinion. And next week you'll come back and slap this guy in the face.
Look at the Muslims agreeing with him.
Of course.
He's saying this is so pathetic. They love the violence. You love violence. There's a woman here.
Stop my time.
Amazing.
Stop my time.
You're a liar.
Jay, you're losing. You can see everyone can see.
Okay, let's continue on.
I want to slap you. No, my time is up.
Or you're going to get another 2 minutes. No. Come on. Do you want him to have another 2 minutes? I hope you saw the Muslims really loving the fact that I'm going to be slapped. Even the woman loved it. This is
Take a joke, Jay.
I will get slapped. But folks, I want to continue. Let's go back to that 705 document. Let's go back to the Sana manuscript. Let's go back. Are these evangelical no Christians. Are you going to interrupt me?
30 seconds.
Are you going to interrupt me? So I get an extra 30 seconds too.
No, he got 30 seconds.
Okay, give me another extra 30 seconds.
No, he needs 30 seconds.
You interrupted me.
Extra. Your time was up. Were you not watching
No,
it?
my 30 seconds was up. You interrupted me while I was speaking.
Coach, was his time
Now,
up?
last point. Last point. Time was up. Last point.
His time was up. He
No,
said say.
he interrupted me while I was speaking. He interrupted me while I was speaking. 30 seconds. Last point. Last point. Quran, ladies and gentlemen. Prophet Muhammad, he had over 100,000 companions. 10,000 of them still preserved in a book called Usud al-Ghaba. All of them heard the Quran with their own ears. They recited it 5 times a day, every day. Publicly, they transmitted it through a chain of narration. We have Quran transmitted in oral form as well as manuscript form.
You want to talk to him. Why are you shouting? Talk to him.
No, 2.5 minutes, all right? Parody.
No, give it 3 minutes. Give it 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3
Why
minutes.
don't you give me 5 minutes?
5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
2.5 minutes.
5 minutes. I'll take 2 minutes.
Now, here's the beauty thing. He says this is an evangelical Christian conspiracy. The people who are doing the research are not religious whatsoever. Dr. Gerd Krisch, a good friend, Dr. Von Volker, Dr. Oli, none of them claim to be evangelical Christians. They do not claim at all to be religious. He used Bell and Montgomery Watt as an authority. When did they write? They were writing in the 50s, in the 60s, and the 70s. They have been outdated. Most everything they say has been destroyed by the newest material by the German school. And it's coming out of Erlangen in Saarbrücken University. It is they that are actually looking at this material. And it is they that are showing that this great manuscript he's talking about, which he agrees, probably the oldest manuscript, most of it is dated 705. But it has parts of it that are much later, the late 8th century. Let me give you an example. Surah 19 begins at the top of one page in what we know as a Hijazi script. There's a yellow line, and then it jumps to Surah 22. What happened to Surah 20 and 21? You'd like to know, wouldn't you?
Yes,
On the next page, on the other side, suddenly Surah 20 begins. In the wrong place, at the top of the page, in a completely different script. A much later script, an Abbasid script, showing that between Surah 19 and Surah 22, the other two were added at a much later date, possibly the late 8th century. This is a manuscript that has yet to be published, that's going to destroy everything he just said. Folks, beware. Beware of what Muslims are saying. They don't have manuscripts to support them. 100,000 companions, you heard him say. Do any of you believe he had 100,000 companions?
No.
Do any of you believe that the Quran that we have in our hand today came from the 7th century? And now can you understand why so many of these stories that are included in the Quran can be dated back to the 2nd, to the 3rd, to the 4th, and to the 5th century. They are much too late to be authoritative. When you look at the Quran, these stories, like the story of Abraham from the Talmud of Rabbah, that's a 2nd century apostle writing. I get 2.5 minutes?
Yeah, give him another minute.
Yeah, you got 2 and a half.
Okay, my turn.